Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from RAU'S IAS Study Circle. Now we are also available on Telegram, so join our Telegram channel by clicking on the link that is available in the description below to get the latest updates from RAU'S IAS Study Circle. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 21st June 2021. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. So let us start the discussion. Now this article on page number 6 basically talks about the India-Russia relations in the context of growing influence of China globally. Also, of late, Russia has been tilting towards the Chinese global vision. And that is a cause of concern for India because we have seen that the Indian foreign policy is now tilting towards United States of America, and as India is complying with the concept of quadrilateral security dialogue in the Indo-Pacific region. In this background, it has been highlighted that Russia has been uncritical of the Chinese global ambitions and its rising assertiveness and aggressiveness. And accordingly, Russia has refused to mediate between or comment upon the recent skirmishes that happened between India and China. In this context, let us look at the way Russia-India relations have been evolving and how the Russia-China relations are being shaped up in the context of the quadrilateral security dialogue and the concept of Indo-Pacific region. Now it has been said that Russia has been critical of the concept of Indo-Pacific and the quadrilateral security dialogue. And recently, the Russian foreign minister had termed the quadrilateral security dialogue as being the Asian NATO or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We all know that NATO or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was formed during the Cold War, and this mainly was aimed at countering the communist camp that was led by the erstwhile USSR. And accordingly, the Russian foreign minister has termed the new quadrilateral security dialogue between India, United States of America, Japan and Australia as being an Asian NATO which aims at countering Russia as well as China. Further, Russia thinks that the quadrilateral and the Indo-Pacific conceptions are primarily an American initiative, and this initiative has been designed to contain both China as well as Russia. And as opposed to the concept of Indo-Pacific, Russia is in the favor of the concept of Asia-Pacific. So in this context, let us try and understand what is the difference between the conceptions of Asia-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific, and how are these two concepts different. Now the term Asia-Pacific simply relates to that part of Asia which lies in the Pacific Ocean. And it was an idea, or it is an idea, which is proposed and supported by Asia's Pacific powers, or those powers that share a border with the Pacific Ocean. And accordingly, the concept of Asia-Pacific includes three major constituents. These include Northeastern Asia, which can include China, North Korea, Japan, etc. Then there is Southeast Asia and Oceania, which includes Southwestern Pacific. However, it should be noted that India is not a part of this particular region. And this conception of Asia-Pacific was primarily an economic concept and was not a security concept. And accordingly, the most representative organization of this particular concept is the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, of which India is not a part. And primarily, this Asia-Pacific concept centered around the economic cooperation, and it did not have any security related implications. So as you can see in this map, the area that is bound by this yellow dashed line represents the Asia-Pacific, and it includes northeastern part of Asia, also Southeast Asia, and the islands of Oceania or the Western Pacific Ocean. However, the Indo-Pacific as a concept, on the other hand, is an integrated theater which combines both the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean. And this is represented by the red dashed line that you can see in this particular map. And it includes the land masses that surround these two oceans. That is, the countries that surround both the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean are part of this conception of Indo-Pacific. So basically, Indo-Pacific is a larger concept as compared to Asia-Pacific. Now this conception of Indo-Pacific region is seen by analysts as shifting of the geopolitics from the Atlantic Ocean towards the Indo-Pacific region. And it is an idea that captures the shift in power and influence from the West to the east. So it is basically both a strategic as well as economic concept. And this is because it includes important sea lanes of communications that connect the littoral countries of both these two oceans. And because the Indo-Pacific region mainly includes the maritime space, the Indo-Pacific is mainly associated with maritime security and cooperation. On the other hand, we have seen that the Asia-Pacific region mainly focuses on the economic cooperation. So basically, there is difference between the conception of both these ideas, that is Asia-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific. And you can clearly see it on the map that the area that is bounded by the yellow dash line basically includes the conception of Asia-Pacific region, which is primarily an economic cooperation concept, while the Indo-Pacific concept is a larger concept which can be seen to be covering the area that is included within this red dashed line, and it includes the littoral countries of Indian Ocean as well as Pacific Ocean. And one of the greatest cooperation that is being seen in the Indo-Pacific region is represented by the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, which has India. So basically, in the Indo-Pacific conception, India is also a part, being a member of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. However, in this Asia-Pacific conception, India is not a part. And in this background, the Russian ambassador to India had recently advised India to take a larger look at the Chinese foreign policies. And also, he described the Indo-Pacific strategy that is being embraced by the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue as an effort to revive the Cold War mentality. And you all might be knowing that during the Cold War, the world was divided into two camps, one represented by the United States of America and the other camp was represented by the erstwhile USSR, of which Russia was the main player. Further, recently we have seen that the Russian foreign minister had visited Pakistan, and this is the first time a Russian foreign minister has done so. So in this background, India is concerned about Russia's uncritical advocacy of China's global vision, and how it is going to impact India-Russia relations is very crucial for India. So in this background, let us try and understand the India-Russia relations in the emerging geopolitical scenario. Now, there are a lot of emerging geopolitical scenarios that are playing out, and these are likely impacting the India-Russia relations. First in this line is the India's alignment with the United States of America in its Indo-Pacific strategy. We all know that India has been aligning with the United States of America in the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue in the Indo-Pacific strategy. And this is one of the key concerns between India-Russia relations. We all know that US and Russia have been adversaries for almost after the Second World War. Further, Russia has been one of the biggest defense partners for India. However, of late, India has signed all the four foundational defense agreements with the United States of America, which clearly highlights that India is tilting towards the United States of America in terms of its defense strategy. However, India has insisted that its Indo-Pacific initiatives like the Quadrilateral Security Dialogues, etc., seek for a cooperative and rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific. And such initiative will not lead to a politico-military alliance, and that is why Russia need not be concerned with the India's cooperation with the United States of America. However, already experts have outlined that India's alignment with the United States of America is going to be one of the key issues in the India-Russia relationship's future. Then recently, Russia-China bonhomie is also being witnessed. And in this line, India has raised the concerns about Russia's China embrace, that is, the improving relations between Russia and China, which include close political, economic, and defense cooperation. Now, Russia accounted for about 77% of China's arms imports between 2016 to 2020, which is one of the big numbers. Also, India has already raised apprehensions about their technology and intelligence sharing. We all know that India is already concerned about the assertiveness of China on its northern borders. And then there are also speculations about a future Russia-China military alliance being developed against the United States of America and its Indo-Pacific strategy, which will make India and Russia standing at odds despite having a half century of good relations. Another issue that is affecting India-Russia relations is the Russia-Pakistan bonhomie. And in this line, the Russian foreign minister had recently visited Pakistan after he visited India. And this is the first time a Russian minister has visited Pakistan. So that is also a cause of concern for India, because at this visit, the Russian foreign minister highlighted that Russia would be strengthening the Pakistan's counter-terrorism capability. And this is being seen as a step to increase the Russian weapon supply to Pakistan. Now, Russia is Pakistan's second largest defense supplier, and it accounts for about 6.6% of its arms imports in 2016 to 2020. Further, both the countries are already cooperating on joint counter-terrorism drills and are sharing perspectives on the military tactics and strategic doctrines. Now, as the Russian arms exports are increasing to Pakistan, India is already concerned that it is one of the biggest importers of the Russian defense supplies. And that is why this will lead to sharing of the same intelligence and the technologies with both the countries who are adversaries. That is, if Russia shares the same technology and intelligence with both Pakistan and India, it will undermine India's security interests. Then also there are concerns regarding a new Cold War playing out because of the US-China angle. And in this line, the US is taking on both China and Russia, and it is leading to increasing relationship or improving relationship between China and Russia at this point of time. And it is driving them together. In this background, the experts have speculated that this is accelerating the move to bipolarity towards a new Cold War. Now, you might all know that during the Cold War, the world was divided into two camps. One was led by the erstwhile USSR, and one was led by the United States of America. So a similar bipolarity is being witnessed because United States of America is clearly taking on China and Russia, and this is increasing the bipolarity in the geopolitics because of increasing or improving relationship between China and Russia on the one hand and United States of America on the other hand. So there are speculations that this might lead to buildup of military blocs on the same lines that were witnessed during the Cold War between the erstwhile USSR and the United States of America led camps. So now what are the concerns for India-Russia relationship in this background? Now, Russia had supplied 49% of India's arm imports between 2016 to 2020. Now, this share, although looks very high, however, this has been falling off late. And in this regard, the concerns have been raised by India regarding the potential technology secrets that can be shared with India's adversaries like Pakistan and China because of improving relationship between Russia and China and Pakistan. Further, India is concerned about the sanctions that can be imposed on India for importing defense equipments from Russia under the America's CAATSA law. And CAATSA law simply stands for Countering the America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, and it was passed under the Donald Trump's regime. And it seeks to impose sanctions on all those countries that are cooperating with the America's adversaries. And these include Iran, Russia, etc. And that is why India is concerned that there can be sanctions that can be imposed on India if it keeps on importing defense equipments from Russia. And clearly, this is one of the concerns in the imports of S-400 missile deal between India and Russia. Then another key issue in the India-Russia relations and why India-Russia relations need to be improved is the geography that is involved in the geopolitics. Now, looking at the geographical location of India, the Eurasian landmass to India's north is dominated by both Russia and China, as is clearly visible from this map. Because India shares its northern borders with China, and it also has increasing influence on the Eurasian countries. And besides this, the Central Asian countries, etc., are already under the influence of Russia. And for India to pursue its strategic and security interests in Central Asia, West Asia, and Afghanistan, it needs to have engagement with the region through the connectivity projects. And these will include the International North-South Transport Corridor, which can be seen in this map, and also improving the connectivity through the Chabahar port. And for improving India's strategic and security interests in the Central Asia, West Asia, and Afghanistan, India-Russia relations are key to it. So for pursuing these interests, India will have to effectively manage its relations with Russia. Now, as we have seen that India-Russia relations are witnessing challenges in the emerging geopolitical scenario. So in this background, the author says that the real strategic triangle that is going to remain in the maritime domain will mainly be dominated by India, US, and China. And in this background, the author has highlighted that Russia is yet to realize that it will gain immensely from the multilateralism that the Indo-Pacific seeks to promote. So basically, he has suggested that Russia should align with the multilateral point of view that has been projected in the conception of Indo-Pacific region. And at the same time, Russia has been cautioned that if it remains China's junior partner, it will undermine Russia's great power ambitions. Further, it is being said that Russia's foreign policy has a reflection of the Cold War mentality because Russia sees United States of America as its biggest rival. And this obsession of the Russian foreign policy makers of viewing China as a rival has largely impacted Russia's view of the India-China relations. And that is why Russia has abstained from commenting on the border issue that happened between India and China in 2020. However, in this background, it is being said that India is interested in normalizing its relations both between the US and the Russia. That is, India wants to balance its geopolitical position between the two powers of United States of America and Russia. And also, India wants that Russia should not participate or coordinate in the South Asian policies along with China. That is, Russia should have a separate point of view regarding the issues that are happening in South Asia, and these views of Russia should not be influenced by what China is exactly trying to do in this region. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, these articles on page number 3 and page number 8 are both related to live-in relationships. And in the first article, the High Court has said that it will not interfere with the order to live in partner. Also, in the second article on page number 8, the Allahabad High Court has said that we are not against live-in relationship. In this background, let us understand what are the reasons for increasing trend of live-in relationship in India, and also what is the legal status of such live-in relationships. And some of the points that we discuss here can be important for us from General Studies paper 2 point of view in the topic social issues. Now, in India, we all know that marriage is seen as a sacred institution. And accordingly, if a man and woman, if they want to live together, they have to get themselves tied into the institution of marriage. And only then their living will be recognized by the society. Now, although the concept of marriage has existed for a long period of time, now it is being replaced by a new kind of social concept that is known as live-in partnership or live-in relationship. And the live-in relationship refers to a living arrangement in which an unmarried couple lives together in a long-term relationship that resembles a marriage. And this concept in India is fairly a new one. However, it is spreading rapidly across all the Indian cities and in various areas. So in this background, let us first understand what are the reasons for increasing trend of live-in relationship in India, and what are the societal changes that are being witnessed, and what are the ideas that are witnessing changes because of which the live-in relationships are increasing in India. And after that, we will learn about what is the legal status of such live-in relationships and what are the various judgments of the Supreme Court in this regard. Now, first and foremost reason for the increasing trend of live-in relationship in India is the modern education and the ideas. And modern education and ideas are emanating new kinds of values in the society, which include freedom, equality, autonomy, and individuality. And due to these concepts of freedom, equality, autonomy, and individuality, the couples are choosing to live in a live-in relationship, and they are not choosing marriage as against such kind of relationships. And one of the reasons for increasing trend in the live-in relationship is because of the issues that existed in the marriage as a system or marriage as an institution. Now, we all know that in marriage as an institution, the woman has to live in the house of the husband, and this is known as patrilocal residency. That is, woman who is marrying a man will have to live in the house of the husband. Second issue that existed with the institutionalized marriage system is that there was a lot of gender inequality in the division of labor in the house, or there was inequality in the domestic division of labor. And this was mainly because the household works were considered to be the duty of the wife. However, the man was supposed to earn outside. And this was seen as an arrangement which perpetuated gender inequality. Thirdly, in the institutionalized marriage system, there is lack of agency over the reproduction. And the women did not have say in the important questions related to reproduction. That is, when to conceive a child or how many children should be given birth. And in such decisions, women did not have much say. And that is why it is said that women had lack of agency over the reproduction. And all these factors have discouraged the institution of marriage, and that is why many couples are now choosing to live in a live-in relationship kind of concept. Further, with marriages, there were a lot of legal and financial complications, and these came to the surface especially when the couples decided to split. Also, we note that in the present society, there is economic independence and financial security for the women, and this has increased with female labor force participation, and accordingly, women has become free in the society because of increasing opportunities or increasing economic opportunities because of participation in the labor force, and accordingly, the influence of the society, which is highly patriarchal, is reducing considerably. Also, we note that the youngsters these days are career oriented and highly aspirational. And as such, both men and women treat marriage and having children as an impediment to their career growth. And accordingly, the live-in relationships are giving way to traditional system of marriage in the society. Further, because of the changes that are being witnessed through the globalization and westernization, we see that there has been increased communication revolution across the globe. And this has led to diffusion of new ideas and concepts of marriages into Indian society. And the concept of live-in relationship that existed in the Western society is now gradually increasing or getting adopted in India as well. Further, we note that the institution of marriage in India is mainly or deeply rooted in the caste and the communal ties. We note that in the caste system, the marriage is allowed only within the caste. And as such, intercaste and interfaith marriages are not entertained well by the society, or they are not widely accepted. And that is why many urban youth prefer choice-based live-in relationships. So these are few reasons that are leading to increasing trend of live-in relationship in India. And it is now a common fold phenomena across the large cities of India. Now this brings us to next important issue related to live-in relationship, that is what is the legality of live-in relationship. So it should be understood that the Supreme Court in one of the landmark judgment that was known as S. Khushbu versus Kanyammal had held that live-in relationship comes within the ambit of right to life under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. And as such, the court held that live-in relationships are permissible and the act of two major living together cannot be considered as illegal or unlawful. So basically, Supreme Court through this judgment has recognized the concept of live-in relationship and has said that it comes within the ambit of right to life under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Further, the Protection of Women from the Domestic Violence Act 2005 covers under its ambit relationships similar to marriage or live-in relationship, and this protects women in such kind of relationships. So basically, women in the live-in relationships also have protection under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. Again, one of the key committees that was set up by the Government of India, known as the Justice Malamuth Committee, which was mainly concerned with reforms in criminal justice system, had suggested that the word wife that is enshrined under the Criminal Procedure Code or the CRPC should be amended, and this should be amended to include a woman living with the man as his wife, so that even women in live-in relationship would be entitled to alimony. And this was mainly to be done in order to facilitate the women with financial resources after the woman separates from a man. So basically, this committee advocated widening the scope of the term or the definition of wife that is included in the Criminal Procedure Code. Again, the National Commission on Women also suggested a similar thing, and it suggested that the section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code should include couples living together for years within its ambit to give proper maintenance and alimony to deserted women. However, despite such decisions of the Supreme Court and coverage of women under the Domestic Violence Act, the issue of separation of women and men under the live-in relationship has been a cause of concern. And as such, it is suggested that there is a need to change the laws to keep up with the evolving societal conditions, because the existing legal system does not cover live-in relationship in its entirety. So these are few aspects of the issue of live-in relationship in India. These are some of the legal aspects, and also we have seen some of the reasons that are leading to the increasing trend of live-in relationship in India. So these are some of the points that can be used in writing answers in the social issues related to this topic of live-in relationship, and can also be seen as a kind of change that is being witnessed in the marriage system in India. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this data point on page number 7 is related to the issue of domestic violence in India, and women in India have been at the receiving end of the domestic violence, and they have been the victims of the domestic violence in Indian families. And this data point highlights that the highest ever domestic violence cases have been registered in India in the year 2021. And between January and May 2021, the complaints of domestic violence stood at about 2,383. And this is high as compared to the last peak that was witnessed regarding the complaints back in 2014. Now, according to National Commission for Women, over 2,300 domestic violence complaints were registered between January and May 2021. And this is the highest for any year since 2000. And most of the complaints were received from Uttar Pradesh, while the highest complaint rate was recorded in Delhi. Now, according to NFHS or the National Family Health Survey data, 70% of the women in major states who faced physical violence did not inform anyone about it. And even among those who sought help, very few reached out to the relevant authorities. So clearly, even when the women are suffering from domestic violence, they are reluctant to reach out to the relevant authorities. So all this data clearly reflects the stark situation of domestic violence in India. And accordingly, let us try and understand what is meant by this term domestic violence, what are the various reasons for high incidence of domestic violence in India, and what are the various government measures to prevent the issue of domestic violence. And after that, let us look at some of the measures that can be used by the governments to prevent domestic violence in Indian families. Now, domestic violence simply refers to abuse by one partner against another in an intimate relationship such as dating, marriage, cohabitation, or familial relationship. Now, although domestic violence can be both ways, that is, a man hurting a woman or women hurting a man in a relationship, however, in India, mostly the domestic violence cases are witnessed against women, or the victims of the domestic violence in India are women. Now, domestic violence is not just physical abuse, but it can also include emotional, verbal, economic, and sexual abuse. And as such, domestic violence is a clear violation of the fundamental right to live with dignity and of right to equality and equal protection of law guaranteed in the Indian Constitution, and it demands proper legal actions. Now, what are the reasons for increasing incidences of domestic violence in India? Let us look at some of these reasons. Now, one of the foremost reasons for increasing incidence of domestic violence in India is the patriarchal mindset. Now, patriarchy is basically a social system in which men hold the primary position, and women's position is considered as secondary and as a mere appendage to the male-centric system. And violence arises from such patriarchal notions of ownership over women's bodies, labor, reproductive rights, and the level of autonomy. Second reason for high incidence of domestic violence in India is the dowry system that exists in India. And various studies have found that there is a negative correlation between dowry amount and inter-domestic violence. That is, when the dowry is high, the incidence of domestic violence is low. However, when the dowry is low from the expectation of the family of the man, then the domestic violence is more prevalent. And according to World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index, India ranks at 112. And because of the increasing expectation of dowry from the family of the women, there have been incidences of domestic violence in the Indian families. And dowry system is seen as one of the most important and primary reasons for the prevalence of domestic violence in Indian families. Third important factor that is leading to increasing incidences is the gender inequality. And the researches carried out in different parts of the world indicate that any social structure which treats women as fundamentally of less value than men is conducive to violence against women. Further, Indian society has seen erosion of joint family system, and because of this, there is reduced check on the spouse's violent behavior, and the nuclear families are witnessing more domestic violence as compared to the joint family systems. Further, there is lack of awareness among the women themselves about their rights. and lack of awareness of their own rights and a general social belief in women's subordination perpetuates a low self-image in the women themselves, and the women consider themselves to be inferior in status as compared to men. Further, stress is also considered as a cause of domestic violence. And the incidences of stress related domestic violence have increased considerably due to lockdowns that have been imposed during this pandemic. Other reasons for increasing incidences include poverty, alcoholism, unemployment also, and all these issues contribute to violent behavior. Now, what are the various government measures to prevent the domestic violence in India? Firstly, back in 1983, the domestic violence was recognized as a specific criminal offence by the introduction of a section 498A into the Indian Penal Code. Further, the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961 prohibits the giving or taking of dowry, and this is to ensure a change in the culture of dowry in India, and which is clearly associated with the incidences of violence in the households. And finally, as late as 2005, the Protection for Women from Domestic Violence Act was passed. However, despite such legal measures, the incidences of domestic violence have not decreased in India, and as such, there is a need for doing more than what is being done currently. And some of the measures that can be taken to prevent domestic violence can include gender sensitization. And the gender sensitization of all the stakeholders is an important component of effective responses to domestic violence. And it should form part of the curriculum of training of the police, judiciary, bureaucracy, policymakers, social workers, counselors, etc. Second important measure that can be taken is dissemination of information. This is because many women are still unable to escape the domestic violence because they are unaware of available legal services and agencies that are working related to the issue of domestic violence. And therefore, dissemination of information on the range of services available is very essential. Third important measure that is required is raising the public awareness regarding this issue. And it is important to generate public awareness on domestic violence as a violation of human rights. And accordingly, educational strategies that are aimed at changing attitudes, beliefs, and biases of law enforcers, the judiciary, and the citizens need to be developed and implemented properly. Then there is also a need for healthy relationship skill and inculcation of such kind of skills in the couples. And social emotional learning programs for youth and healthy relationship programs for couples should be promoted. And finally, economic empowerment of women is a very important component in reducing the issues or incidences of domestic violence. And this is because many women stay in destructive relationships because they will be homeless with their children if they leave the marriage. And the financial distribution after divorce needs to be more fair. And the policy changes that tend to help women financially, like raising the minimum wage, universal basic income, can make a difference in reducing the incidences of domestic violence and women empowerment, and especially economic empowerment of women. Now, we all know that Article 21 of our Constitution ensures the right to live with dignity for women. And as such, a comprehensive effort is required both at societal and government level to change the attitudes of patriarchy towards women. With this, let's take up the next news article now. This article on page number 8 is related to a pact that has been signed to conserve the rare turtle that is found in religious ponds in Assam. And this is in news because an MOU or Memorandum of Understanding has been signed between two green NGOs, the Assam State Zoo cum Botanical Garden and the Kamrup District Administration for long-term conservation of the rare freshwater black softshell turtle in Assam. Also, a vision document 2030 was launched, which will set in motion a plan to have an ecologically viable population of 1,000 adults of black softshell turtle in Assam by 2030. And that is why let us try and understand some facts related to black softshell turtle from our prelims examination perspective. So regarding this black softshell turtle, you should note that it is a rare turtle species that is being bred in ponds of Assam's religious shrines. And India hosts about 28 species of turtles, of which 20 are found in Assam itself. Now, to learn more about the turtles, you can go through the Compass magazine of Environment and Ecology. Regarding the black softshell turtle, you should note that it is critically endangered under the IUCN's Red List. And as far as the distribution of black softshell turtle is concerned, It is a freshwater turtle, that is, it is found in fresh water and is found in both India and Bangladesh. And this species of turtle faces threats because of consumption of turtle meat and eggs, silt mining, encroachment of wetlands, and change in flooding patterns. And all these events have had a disastrous impact on the turtle population in the state of Assam, and accordingly, this MOU assumes importance. With this, we conclude today's discussion, and this is the question for the day.